Hello and welcome to the Ski Racing Podcast Extra with me, Ed Drake. Tord Nilsson and I are back after we had a little time off over the World Champs to discuss the World Cup action from this weekend. The women raced double downhill and Super G in Val di Fassa, Italy, whilst the men raced over in Bansko, Bulgaria, on what was a pretty icy and steep World Cup piece, putting the men to the test. Tord, how are you?
I'm very well. Ed, how are you, mate? You doing well?
Oh, mate, I am good. Apart from obviously no skiing, but at least the weather's looking a bit better, giving us a bit of a boost to get through this final push. But should we talk about some skiing?
Right, let's get on to the skiing. Like you said, we have been away for a little while, but it is good to be back. Obviously, you've still been doing the podcast, so people can still catch up with your incredible analysis through that communication channel, if we want to call it that.
Sure.
Yeah, let's crack on with Bansko. It was really warm, it was sunny, causing lots of issues. What did you make of the race?
I thought the race was really good. The piste in Bansko, I raced their World Cup speed, so I didn't race GS there, but I've raced Super G and downhill there. It's a really cool piste. It's long. It's quite a long way from Bansko itself. Like the gondola takes about 40 minutes to get. It's one gondola. It's so long, just goes right from the middle of the town up to the ski area. But it's quite narrow and quite dark. And the part where the GS is, you get a good bit of shade through there. And they injected it so good. It really did challenge the world's best. Injected. It was rock hard icy. It wasn't super cold, but the snow certainly was. Yeah, so it was a really good test.
Which is exactly what you want, and Bansko really stepping up to the plate. Because a lot of resorts haven't been able to do it. There's been lots of issues with weather, COVID. So great to see that they can step up.
Yeah, especially off the back of World Champs. So we saw warm conditions through the tech events there. So it was nice to see World Cup skiing or elite level racing back on the surface that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, no, I really, really agree with you there. It was an interesting podium, especially in third place. Stefan Brennsteiner from Austria, 0.93 behind, taking his first World Cup podium. That was a turn up for the books, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's been around for a little while. Yeah, he's 29 years old, picking up his first World Cup podium. He's just skied really well. The Austrians have been struggling. I mean, apart from if you basically take away World Champs, GS skiing has not been going well for the Austrians for a while, and so having had the Brennsteiner come up and stick on a podium for the Austrians was a really good event. Just quickly though, this was Saturday's race, and Pantero ended up in fourth place, lost the pole.
Yeah.
Would have affected his balance a bit. Obviously, as skiers, we know that in terms of raw speed, that doesn't really do anything if you lose your pole. But in terms of timing, when you're looking to clear gates and move through onto the next turn, it's so key with timing as well as obviously balance. So Pantero struggled a little bit. I don't know whether the World Champs has affected his mental slightly, because obviously he's been on such good form in GS for so long and probably been head and shoulders above everybody else. And then World Champs to go like it did, looks like it may have rocked him slightly. I fully expect him to sort of get to grips with it pretty quickly, and fourth is still obviously a good result. But Brennsteiner, big thumbs up for him. Nice to see a new name on a podium.
Yeah, it's always nice seeing a new name. And on Pantero, obviously, we'll come to later, the second GS, he did manage to climb back on the podium. But, losing a pole, every second counts. I mean, not even every second, every millisecond, hundreds. Yeah, for sure. Second was Mathieu Faivre.
Yeah.
I can never say his name.
The French guy, Mathieu Faivre. So he...
Faivre, that's the one.
I mean, he's sort of been nowhere all season, really. And then, again, comes up to World Champs, finds form I have no idea where he's found that form, because his World Cup form's been, by elite level standards, subpar, let's say. I'm not saying it's crap by any means, obviously. But it hasn't been that great, hasn't been stellar at all. Comes to World Champs, picks up the parallel gold, picks up the GS gold, takes advantage of Pantero falling over, but that's not to say that he wouldn't have won it anyway, so we can't say that. But he looked supremely confident. It looked effortless again. Apparently him and Pantero skiing on the same version of the latest head ski. So apparently, word on the inside is that they are the only ones skiing on this new ski. But whatever's going on, it's working. And Faivre looked supreme. He was leading after the first run. Just, didn't quite go his way on the second run, but still a podium. big thumbs up.
Yeah, and again, we'll come on to him on the second run as well, with a bit more stats around that. The win of the first one in Bansko, Filip Zubčić from Croatia. He obviously narrowly missed out on the podium at the Cortina World Champs. So good to see him kind of bounce back, take his second World Cup victory.
Yeah, he's a joy to watch, isn't he? And we'll see that in a second. But he just looks so dynamic. There's so much movement. There's so much flow. He's getting some crazy angles. He's incredibly strong, and it was nice to see him push the boundaries and put in a really good run on what was an incredibly difficult piece. His coach set the first run, I believe it was, and he was, he's skiing at the best he's skied before, and that's why he's third in the standings. And here is Filip Zubčić's winning run. He was second after the first, Faivre leading, so he had to put down a marker, and he goes at it straight out of the gate. This race piece, don't forget, was so icy and so slick. It's quite steep as well in the middle, but just watch how aggressive he is on the edges. He comes across here, yes, he gets them sideways, but then gets that pressure down and the ski's biting. But it almost comes a cropper. Watch this turn here. Just moves the body weight inside slightly. Doesn't wait to find the grip on the outside ski. Just keep an eye on that outside ski there. What he's ending up doing is just puts the body weight towards the inside before he's reached a sort of good platform on that outside, which is why it's bouncing around. That hip hits the deck. But this man's core strength is insane. Still manages to get up and over that outside ski. Gets back onto the front at the next turn. He's in recovery mode, but look at that again. Straight back into it. Now he settles back down, and he's just able to wipe that from the memory. Through the gate that took Pantaro's pole, and then onto the steepest part of the racetrack. He's managed to, even with that big mistake at the top, managed to build time. Nearly a second in the green. This camera angle really doesn't do it justice. Another inside move, the same sort of thing. Comes in, hasn't quite weighted the outside ski, gets bounced around by the bumps, loses pressure onto that inside. The outside ski doing absolutely zero right here. Nothing. It's not even on the ground. All that turning phase, all the turning shape is coming from that inside ski, as you can see, with all the snow coming off of it there. But it's core. Just is the thing that picks him back up again. And it's seriously impressive. But he lives, this is how he skis every single time he goes in. I love this move. So he's come round the banana, looks to try and get set up, gets slightly more direct than he would have anticipated, but he just, quick thinking, chucks it across. This is an insane angle. Look at that. The ski's pointing way off over into the distance this way. He's still got to travel 2 meters across the hill this way. But it's that feather, that touch. So he just rolls it in, keeps the chest pointing the direction that the momentum's taking him, not down the hill, because he's got to get round this gate. Just softens that drift and then goes, right, gets that position down here. Slight counter going on here, but he's looking to try and get every single pound of strength he's got onto the outside ski, and that's when it bites, even in this ice. So it's a seriously good move. Again, more hip up action. Just watch how the hip comes through in that transition. There's a great example of it here. Comes round this turn, moves the body weight up and through, allows himself to get back on top of the outside ski, and then starts to build that pressure again. Hip comes up and through. Yes, he's got through over a roller, but he gets back right on the front at every single opportunity, brings that hip through, and it's a powerful ski. And it's a joy to watch. This man is exciting every single time he puts on his giant slalom ski. Small mistake towards the finish, but he doesn't panic at all. Lovely turn on this right foot here. Just comes around here. So smooth, so clean. Look at that. Lovely, powerful move. Gets those skis coming across straight into a new carve. Filip Zubčić picks up his third ever World Cup win and takes the title here today.
We move into the second GS out in Bansko in Bulgaria, where again the injected piste was in great shape. Ed, was it the same story, or did things get tweaked around?
It was, in terms of the piste, was Pretty similar. Rock hard. Really challenged them. No real ruts. Lots of judder ruts because it is steep. The courses were both pretty turny, challenging the racers. There's some bigger time differences than we're used to seeing this season. I wonder whether it is due to the fact that it was so solid underfoot that it just meant that you got a few judder ruts in there, and that started to really affect the timing when it's that steep. So no, but it was a really good race. Again, the cream rose to the top, didn't it?
It did indeed. It's a great saying. Very old school. I like it. On the podium, like we mentioned previously, Pantero coming back onto the podium, third place, 0.81 behind the eventual winner. I mean, he is just really consistent, isn't it? When things go to plan, he doesn't fall over or drop a pole.
Yes, no poles dropped. He did look a little... He looked like he was trying, which I think the best of Pantero doesn't look like he's trying. Mm-hmm. It looks effortless, doesn't it? Through the last, he won 3 or 4 World Cups so far this season. You look at Adelboden, one of the hardest pieces on World Cup, and it made it look like it was a Sunday afternoon outing, cruising down there. But he looked like he was trying a bit harder, having to work a bit harder. Hip was dropping back, but no poles dropped. But he did cross block. Got his arm caught in one gate and then cross blocked the next one. So he certainly was muscling his way down that second run, but back on the podium and picking up some good points for his overall and the GS Tour standing quest.
Quest.
Well,
like he's a knight in shining armour, Pantero.
Yeah, you like that. I know you like that, Tor.
Pantero and his glittery helmet.
Stop it. Move on quick.
Anyway, Marco Odermatt from Switzerland grabbing his 7th podium. Again, I feel like, I mean, he's always consistent. He's always a good guy to bet on to take a podium. 0.75, so still quite a fair bit behind, but great effort.
Yeah, fair chunk off. But he was a bit disappointed in the first day, wasn't on the podium. I think he was 5th or 6th. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. But he was a bit disappointed. Second run was much more like it. He did a really good second run on the second day and managed to pick up a second place. Again, closing the gap, everything sort of concertinaing in the GS Tour standings. So he is becoming super consistent, and he's so young. Keep forgetting how young he is, but he's looking ominous. The kid is pretty quick right now. It's
funny you say that he's young, because I feel like he's been around for so long, and he's so ingrained into our podium chats. And taking the win was Mathieu Faivre. Was that better?
Yeah. Closer, yeah.
Closer. I'll get there soon enough. Hopefully he doesn't win more and I don't have to say his name anymore.
Well, you can tell that he's not been up there too much. You haven't had to say his name. You need a bit more practice.
I know, and I don't practice any of the names either, so that doesn't help, does it? But it was... Sorry?
No, we can tell.
Yeah, never mind, eh? Have simple names. Odermatt, simple. Anyway, I digress. Second career World Cup victory. 3 races, 3 straight podiums, including those World Champs that we spoke about before. That is phenomenal. He is on fire. Can he keep it going?
There's 2 GSs left as World Champs as well as Kranjskogora. There's no reason why he couldn't keep it going. It's not a fluke. I mean, you would have said World Champs could have been an anomaly when you look at the form going into the World Champs, but actually, backed up with the first race on the podium, and then again, but he won by, what did he win by? 0.75.
0.75.
The second that's an insane margin. On something so tricky, that is an insane margin. But it looked, he looked effortless. He looked like Pantero, in terms of that cool, relaxed style. Didn't really make any mistakes. Just building. It was really cool. What it has done is really, like I said, concertinaed the standings. I've got the points in front of me. Pantero sits on 550. Odermatt is on 525, and Zubčić is 64 points back on 486. 2 GSs left. It's all to play for. I wonder all of a sudden if Pantero is now just slightly checking over his shoulder. That pressure is going to tell. He's not won the Tour standings before. He's talked about how it's been a big goal for him. He's leading the overall by a bit more of a margin, so that one looks a little bit more sewn up, but the GS standings are close right now.
Yeah, and that's coming. I mean, it's going to come to a really exciting end in only a few races. Let's see how the win was taken.
Here is Mathieu Faivre's win from the second GS. So led the first run of the first day, didn't pay off for him, but today on the Sunday certainly did. Note the difference between him and Zubčić. Zubčić is all out explosions and dynamic skiing, whereas Faivre has a bit more of a touch, a bit more of a feel for the ski. Just watch as he's able just to sort of, has a bit more of a delicate touch, isn't quite explosive, but it's just clean and smooth. You know, similar to how Pantero skis, just makes it look a little bit more effortless. Comes up with a few little errors, a few little changes in what he wants to do, gets pitched out wide, still manages to stay over the ski, gets it to bite. Just watches that wheelie as the pressure comes in. That's an extreme position towards the back seat that he's in there, as well as that. You know, that's a long way back, but that he just doesn't panic. I know I talk about not panicking, but he really doesn't panic. Gets those skis out into where he wants, finds the shin of that new outside ski and into a position like he hasn't just been wheeling out of the previous turn. So very impressive stuff. Nice and strong over that outside ski. Nice position through the banana gate, and I think it's just confident skiing that comes off the back of that result at World Champs. Now coming onto the really steep part of the racetrack, we saw a lot of feathering from a lot of races, but he just does it a small amount and then goes for it. You know, none of these big drifts. We saw Loic Meillard make huge drifts and actually slowing himself down, but Faivre was just able just to keep it a bit smoother with that application, a bit smoother with that drift, then doesn't get out of shape straight onto that ski. Yes, into the back, as you can see, that acceleration pushes the feet out in front of him, but has the strength, has the ability to get back over the front to start the new outside ski turn. Great separation again. You can see here, it's quite interesting. You see it a lot from the guys, that independent feet moving from turn to turn. So he's finishing off that outside turn, that outside ski, so that right foot has got the power, but he's already starting to look, because what he doesn't want to do is lose contact. He doesn't want to get projected across, which if you do it simultaneously, that all the power still stays on that outside foot through that transition, and then you get into that potential wheelie motion. So on the steep, what he's trying to do, which is way harder, try it on the flats, but you know, it's a lot easier, but on the steep it's a real skill, and obviously that's why he's one of the best in the world at doing it, but just rolls that through, so he's got a bit of feeling over that outside ski as that sort of the edge starts to initiate the turn. So it's a really interesting thing, and he does it quite a lot of the time down the hill, you know, on multiple turns as well. So, you know, it's not like he used it to get out of jail free or whatever, but again, nice and clean, just doesn't, that transition is never rushed, you know, different to Zubčić. Zubčić is power, explosion onto the new outside ski, whereas Faivre doesn't rush that first start of the turn, he's a lot more smooth, and this is just one of the silkiest starts. Yes, I know that that's not necessarily a clean carve, but watch this, good absorption moves, keeps that body weight moving. Just keep an eye on the chest, how it doesn't really move at all. It's almost like it's sort of frozen in time. Keeps his eyes on the prize, everything's moving, shoulders are really still, eye line straight at that gate, and then that transition roll really smooth, keeps that contact, a little bit of light at the start of the turn, and then goes bang, I'll have that pressure right now, and just snaps off that turn. Really cool, and a seriously impressive time to boot. You know, so a lot of the world's best skiers struggled down there, and Faivre made it look really easy today, which is Sunday. And so congratulations to him, picking up another World Cup win and carrying on with that impressive form that we saw from the World Champs. Expect to see more of the same from this man now, with that confidence sky high. Mathieu Faivre picks up race 2 in Bansko.
We move now to the ladies and Val di Fassa in the Italian Alps. It was a double downhill, like Ed mentioned at the top of the show, and it was a cracker, wasn't it? The weather was good, it was sunny, the piste was looking good. You were mentioning to me just now that it's a wide open, great piste for a downhill. What did you make of the race?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of those things. It's nice, it's open, it's not the most challenging on the World Cup Tour for the ladies, but it sort of allows for some good racing, some big open turns, some high speed, some a couple of jumps, a couple that they had to build up, but all in all, a good surface for the ladies to get racing on.
And we'll start by talking about the first one, which was on Friday. And in third place, it was Corinne Sutter, who is one of the kind of mainstays of this year's ladies' podiums, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she's picked up a bunch of podiums. Not as many wins as last season, but she's picked up a lot of podiums, and that's accruing some good points. But another race and another podium for Sutter.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly consistent on that podium kind of placing. Stephen Hoffer taking the second, which I'm not sure if we've seen this year, to be honest. I haven't looked back on my notes, but I don't think we have.
No, I mean, where's she been all season? You know, she's been she's literally, like, in speed anyway, nowhere close. Been quite a long way back in some of the races. She found some GS form, which sort of came out of nowhere, where she scored some points in World Cup GS, and I think 2 top 10s this season, potentially, certainly one. But all of a sudden finding her speed skis again after losing them for a period. Yeah. But no, it was really good. It's great to see her back. A couple of seasons ago, she was vying for wins on the tour. But yeah, this season, not so much. But it's good to see her back.
Yeah, and then I mean, it's same procedure as last time. It's Lara Gut-Behrami, which gets incredibly boring to say, but I found incredible to see the amount that she is winning.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about it before, but a couple of seasons ago was sort of losing track in terms of getting these big performances. Took the win on Friday by only 0.02 of a second. But she is literally unstoppable in speed at the moment. And she's, I think, prize money wise, I think she's picked up nearly over 500,000 Swiss this season in prize money. I think
that's not bad.
I think you can almost quote me on that. I think that is. I'm pretty sure I read that as a stat, not by somebody that's just picked that out of thin air.
I.e. me. So let's move on to the podium of the second race, which was Kira Vidal from Germany taking it 0.68 behind. Again, a name that we haven't seen a huge amount, have we?
No, but she's had some decent results so far this season, but the Germans had a bumper champs, as in world champs. And so all of a sudden, you know, they're bringing that performance through to the rest of the season, and not somebody that we're used to seeing on the podium. But we've had quite a lot of injuries, and we had a further few injuries today, which is Sunday, which we'll talk about later. But so it's sort of become a little bit more open for the podium position, so it's quite interesting who's sort of taking those opportunities when they come, and Kira Vidal skied really well to pick up a podium here on Friday.
Yeah, and then we've got the same story again. So we've got Sutter and then Gut-Behrami taking second place and first place respectively. Again, consistency to a ridiculous level now.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an awful lot to say about it because the two of them are skiing so well. Sutter, you know, again, ominously consistent in the downhill tour standings. Gut picking up yet another win. She took this win by a bit more. She took the win by 0.32. But she is in such good form. She's got such a good feeling for the ski. She's so confident at the moment. She pushes out the start gate and has 2/10 on everybody else just by the fact that she's, you know, on cloud nine every time she puts on those downhill skis.
Was 7 straight podiums, and that is, regardless, incredibly impressive. Yeah. So let's have a look how Gut-Behrami did it.
Here goes Lara Gut off the back of the win in the first of the 2 downhills. This is the second of the 2 downhills. A lady whose confidence, again, another racer that's just building confidence straight race after race, really clean, doesn't even break the tuck off that jump. Another jump, stays in the tuck position. She's got such a good tuck position. When she can, she keeps that hip very low, cuts a very small line, but that's a low sort of input tuck position. That's sort of when you're looking to keep it flat. when you in the turns, just watch that she still brings the hip up and through, so she tucks with a higher tuck, which we'll hopefully get a little look at later on. But cutting pretty direct through this long right footer. Her inspection is on point. Obviously, they skied it the day before. Look at the angle she's getting. It's tough to know whether she looks like she potentially put that hip on the ground there. But again, just when you're that confident, when you've got that much good stuff going on, you manage just to sort of ride your way out of this sort of thing, and makes mistakes like that, but doesn't even sort of blink an eyelid. They're building on that advantage, straight back in the tuck, aerodynamic position, knows exactly what's coming up, gets pushed out into the air. Very difficult thing to do is tuck on a turn, because you've got that build up of pressure. We talked about it before. If you take off from a jump with a loaded ski, that's when it sort of propels you backwards and you see the races opening up. But you can see Lara Gut she's bringing the turn early, and then what she does do is releases that pressure slightly, so that when she's in the air, it's a really small, compact tuck position, back, bang, straight back into that. That's what Kush used to be so good at, straight back in the tuck after the jump. Some big, long downhill turns here, instantaneously back in the tuck. It's not the most challenging of race piece, but you still got to work with what you've got here. And she just takes a tiger line. She's always looking for the tuck position. She's always got that clean carve. I think this is probably the only time the whole run where she broke carve, just slightly wanting to make sure that she had good direction coming out of here. That really solid, beautiful, separated position, hands up in front of her, clears that gate, and just rolls through nicely. Outside ski just rippling through some of those bumps, but again, straight back in. Tiger line, straight in there, nice and deep into that turn. And again, she's just on some form at the moment. Another good example here coming through there. She's got to be doing 70, 80 miles an hour in a turn, very low tuck position. And a nice transition into the most important part of the turn. Best part of the turn to make some speed is the first part. A little bit of a wobble as she comes through that slight fall away. But even in that little wobble where she gets compressed at the bottom of there, that isn't enough to phase her and push her out of that tuck position. So nice and smooth. And just another day in the office for Lara Gut. Rolling through those ripples. And across the line to pick up back-to-back downhill wins.
We move on to the final race of today's programme, and it was also from Val di Fassa. It was the Super G, and it was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, more great conditions. The snow looked perfect. The course was relatively challenging, but not crazy challenging. We have had two really nasty-looking injuries, which we'll quickly touch on. We're not going to go into them, obviously, reviewing them properly, but one of the Austrians, I've forgotten her name. That's
it was Rosina Schneeberger.
Yes, so Schneeberger. Yeah, so she looks like she fell inside. Looks like she'd potentially broken her leg. I mean, I watched it in live and then I couldn't watch it again. It was just it looked too nasty, but it looked like the shin bone was at a bit of a funny angle. We'll wait to get confirmation on that. And the same, real unfortunate for Kasia Wikoff-Lee, the Swedish athlete. She's been putting in some mega performances all season, and it sort of looks like the same thing happened. She fell inside, the skis didn't come off, and ended up in the nets. And again, another leg looking at a bit of a strange angle. So I fear for two broken legs from those two ladies, which, it's really tough. It's really tough. The TV kept showing replays, which I thought was not the greatest. The Italian director sort of sticking those replays on over and over again when you can hear the athletes screaming. It wasn't nice. We wish those athletes well, but no skis. Neither ski came off of either girl. So potentially a thing to look at for sort of equipment-wise. But it's such a fine line getting the bindings set up properly, because too light and you get a pre-release, which is incredibly frustrating, and too tight, too heavy, too high, and your skis don't come off. And when you're travelling that fast with that long ski, just the pivot point is crazy, and twisting actions just happen all too easily. So, wish those guys well, but let's get to the podium. And Suter picked up the third place. She, again, another great performance. She was 0.7 off. And she's not necessarily been as quick at Super G all season long, but it looked pretty good, didn't it?
It did look really good, and taking her third podium in as many races, which is really impressive. And second place, we had the winner of the last two downhills, Gut-Behrami, who was 0.59 behind the winner, but extending her lead in the hunt for the Crystal Globe. What more can we say about her that we haven't already said?
Yeah, nothing. That lead is insurmountable as well, as there's only one race.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
So Lara Gut picks up the Super G Globe. She has a 200 point just under lead in the overall standings, pushing Vlhova very hard. Vlhova is real subpar. I mean, I know she's not a speed skier, but she needed to pick up some points, and I think she was
13th or something, right?
Yeah, and then she was in the Super G, and then a bit further back in the downhills as well, so picking up only small points there. There are more tech races left, so sort of the pendulum swing goes towards Vlhova for the sort of remainder of the season, but I don't know, I'd probably take 200 points ahead, wouldn't you? Best part
and Vlhova really needs to step up, and I feel like
tired. So she looked really tired today.
Yeah, and she started the season really strongly and was amazing. Was a real banker, wasn't she? And then dropped off a cliff, no pun intended or anything, and really hasn't seemed like herself. She seemed tired, like you said.
It's interesting that the overall before has been won mostly by Schifrin and obviously by Brignone before, but Schifrin did it by really picking the races and sort of targeting wins and targeting big point hauls, and that's the way that she went around it. Brignone, I don't want to say won it because Schifrin took at the end of the season off, but probably in all likelihood Schifrin probably would have won it. Don't shoot me, Italian fans, but she probably would have won it. So Brignone sort of picked it up as she was picking up points everywhere, and Vlhova looks like she's got around it as sort of a bit of a scattergun approach, trying to pick up points in everything. And I feel like her tech stuff is slightly faltered because she's just doing so many races and so many miles in the van on the plains as well as under the feet. So yeah, it's a long, hard season for her. Really, really hard. I wonder whether hindsight's a beautiful thing, and if she wins, who cares at the end of it? But I wonder if they look to target it again next year, whether they'll try and look for big points in her sort of favoured disciplines and maybe just pick and choose the downhills and Super Gs where they would potentially suit her more, rather than just going to everything all of the time. But Brignone picked up that win, didn't she? So she was the winner today, her first win of the season. She's had a really tough year off the back of that overall title, not going the way that she had planned at all. Loads of not subpar performances, but just not hitting top gear at all. Very frustrating for her all season long.
Yeah, and I think you're right with Vlhova's strategy in a normal year might have worked, and it was maybe worth that kind of punt. But I mean, the stresses of COVID as well, and the testing and the changing of resorts for different disciplines, but all of these kind of things, I think, play into taking a very difficult strategy of doing everything and making it so much harder because of the current situation. So, fair play for her for trying. Probably wasn't the greatest of strategies in hindsight.
But ultimately, she wins it. She won't care, and none of us will remember. In terms not her winning, but how she went about doing it. So, but it'll be interesting to see whether she wins it or doesn't win it, whether she'll look at doing the same thing next season or not. But we'll see.
Totally, and egg on our face if she does win it. And like you mentioned, Brignone took her first victory of the season out in Val di Fassa, which was awesome to see as well. Yeah,
she took advantage of good piste conditions, good course conditions, and she was really smooth. It's sort of what we've been missing from seeing her this season. A few too many mistakes creeping into her skiing throughout the most of this winter, but today looked quite relaxed. I'm sure she wasn't, because, like I say, she would have put lots of pressure on herself this season to perform better. But she's walked away with a win on home snow, and ultimately, a win is a win.
A win is a win. So let's have a look how she did it.
Here's Federica Brignone's run. Struggled this season, certainly comparatively to last season. She expected more from her winter, so pressure's been on her from the get-go to perform, and managing to do it on home snow. Perfect conditions. What is interesting, what is tough, and considering how her confidence won't be there, is a long carved turn right out of the gate where you've not necessarily got the speed built up yet, and it's really easy for that outside ski to start drawing away. But she tees up that turn really nicely, carves her way through it, and gets on her way, gives her a good feeling early, and very dynamically moving through here. She's nice, good roll up, square to direction of travel, keeps her chest pointing where she's going to make sure that she's not getting into any sort of twisting, because the minute you start twisting the upper body, the minute that starts to point this way, what it does do is therefore brings the outside shoulder round, which therefore kicks the hip out. And I know I'm doing a lot of drawing on here. Kicks the hip. I didn't even know I could zoom in. Let's zoom back out again. Yeah, so pushes the hip out, which in turn turns the heels out. So what you have to be careful of doing when you're offsetting, when you sort of start facing down the hill, is that those sort of things happen. So what she does do is continues to be square to that she's going, so that when she comes onto here, she's able to, if anything, she's sort of moved into a slight counter at the start of the turn to allow herself to make sure that she doesn't kick those heels out on those long Super G skis. Nice and smooth over that little roller. Good setup before she gets there, so make sure that when she comes on the backside of this little roller, she's able to already have the direction, gets into the tuck position nice and early, brings that speed through the turn and across onto this flat section here. So again, lovely early part to that turn. Obviously we're a bit zoomed out so we can't quite see, but she gets that pressure on early, gets the turn phase done, and again releases straight into that tuck so that she can carry some speed across such a small flat. And a great position round here. Good course inspection, so that she knows exactly where she wants to go across here. Nice and clean. Tries to release the ski. Little bit of an extension there, but not something that really affects her at all. Just watch around here. Nice. Again, you can see her fighting to try and get grip. There's a slight fall away here. She's not quite as separated as she'd want to be. That's quite a long outside leg. And the thing with a long outside leg means that it's pressing against you. It's not absorbing what's happening. It's not sort of being used as an extension sort of movement role. It's just a case of bracing. So that's what she wants to get away from. So she braces through there, brings that body weight back over the front. You can see that little bit of movement through there as she tries to fight to get that turn finished off and apply a clean transition, which she does, which is quite impressive. Just a couple of times that she does this sort of little ski pickup. We talked about it in one of the slalom videos. She just wants to try and keep that initiation clean. It's the first real line error. She's not quite got the direction that she wanted pre that turn, so it's a little bit of a panic going off the backside of that roll. But that experience paid off, and it's a really nice sort of direct entry into here. You can see some of the lines further out here. You can see these cutting through here, and Brignone just goes slightly inside of them, skis it a bit deeper, cuts off this sort of part up here. There's my thing there. So she's cut off that higher, which means that she sort of bellies out the turn here. So if you come in, sometimes you'll talk from coming from behind, and that means coming round here and doing a lot of turn here and then sort of releasing the turn here. And what she's gone in to do is she sort of more bellied it. So she's come in a little bit straighter, sacrificed the top part here just to give yourself, it's what it does is changes the way that you leave a banana gate especially. So she's coming quite direct, she's bellied the turn out here, and that line comes back at it this way. So you can sort of see the different tactics. So yeah, you can come up on this higher line, the top of those two yellow lines, and then look to try and get that turn done and release the ski, but you're still running an edge through as this, obviously the top line becomes the bottom line here. Or you can run the belly line, which is the lower line. You ski it a bit deeper, get more of the turn done in the sort of middle part here, and therefore give yourself that direction, allows you to release more across where you want it to go. So let's clear all that off and see how she runs through there nice and clean, gets that direction really nicely, and carries all that speed across the flat. Doesn't ever really put those skis sideways. Look at how early she gets in the tuck position, because she's got herself some good height through here. She's got nice early pressure. She feels like she can release into that tuck really early and carry a lot of speed across this small flat. So Brignone comes towards the finish, nice and smooth off that jump, back in that really low aerodynamic position, absorbs a couple of rollers, and she'll be very relieved to pick up her first win of the season on home snow.
That's all that we've got time for this time. Ed, where are we heading off to next, mate?
We are off to Saalbach Hinterglen for the men. They race downhill and Super G. The first downhill is the Wengen replacement, whereas we missed the Lauberhorn due to COVID. And then Saalbach has stepped in to cover the Kvitfell races that have been cancelled because the Norwegians didn't want people travelling in there with potential COVID. So that's been good for the Austrians. Thank you very much for them stepping in. And the women are in Jasna, Slovakia, and they race slalom and GS. So Vlhova will be pleased on a home hill. Tord, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe down. I'm not sure if Tord you're going to be able to do this, but down somewhere down here. And also give us a listen and a like on the podcast itself. But until next time, bye for now.